Okay, well, thanks all for coming. I wasn't expecting anybody on a nice freezing cold day in whichever month it is, April. A little bit about my background. I don't profess to be an expert on coastal defences. I'm not a coastal engineer. I'm actually an ecologist by training. But for many years I've taught geography and biology to visiting schools down to this area. We used to run a field study centre just at Holzanery, just on the other side of Biddeford. Okay, and Westward Ho was always a fantastic case study in processes, what's going on, and what we can do about it, how we can cope with it. So I'm not an expert on this. I just collated all the information I can get together. And what I'm going to be asking you guys at some point is this question: what would you do? Okay, what would you do about Westward Ho, and what would you do about the problems that Westward Ho inevitably is going to suffer? Okay, so it's more towards the end, but I'd be really interested. It's the thing I do with all students. So with you guys, here's the situation. What are the options? So anyway, I'm not a golfer. I've got no vested interests. I'm not a developer. I don't live in Westward Ho. So this is just trying to see trying to run through what's going on basically. I thought I'd start with a bit of history to what's going on. And I apologise if anybody knows all this stuff here. What's important when you're considering the coast? Obviously, the geology is quite important. And what changes have gone on in the past? Big changes. So we have to consider ice ages, sea level changes, coastal erosion, coastal deposition. Big cliffs are falling down. Stuff's being moved around all the time. Okay, this is an ongoing process. And so that's a horrible slide. Okay. Forget all this, Matt. Okay. Look at these down here. Okay. The rocks we're talking about to the west of Westward Ho. This is Hartland Point here. Westward Ho's here. They're composed of sandstones and shales. The sandstones are hard rocks and the shales are soft rocks. So when we go to around here at Hartland Point, all the coast along here, they're gigantic beds of sandstone, really big lumps of sandstone, and between them are thin layers of shale. Okay. When we get to Westward Ho, it's a bit more complicated. It's a bit different. It's the opposite. I'll try and show you that a picture. This is just somewhere on the coast, I don't know where it is. These giant beds here are sandstone, and the darker lines in between are shale. And these sandstones form the origin of the pebble ridge, which we know and love. Okay, so the pebble ridge is hard sandstone pebbles, and all the pebbles come from west of here, and they're brought along by the sea and end up at Westward Ho. Okay, so really big, thick beds of sandstone and thin beds of shale come to Westward Ho, and it's the opposite. There's the 20p piece. It's more complicated here in that that's actually a bed of shale there, I think, and then sandstones in between. So the sandstones are really thin, and the shale beds are much thicker. Okay. You might say, why does this matter really? This is just the source of all the stuff that's coming down towards Westward Ho. Okay, so background geology, and the most important thing, as far as we're concerned, is the hard rocks stop at Kipling Tors, and then we're into recent sediments. We're into sand and mud and clays and that sort of stuff. Okay, so we've got all the old rocks to the west, and then just recent stuff at Westward Ho. So this is we've got cliffs which are eroding away happily. Okay, so that's all we need to know. Just sandstones, big sandstones, soft shales. The shales just disappear. Okay. Ice ages. Let's think about ice ages. You'll all know that we've had loads of ice ages in Britain. The lines here just show the limits of ice. The green one is not the last one, the previous one that. All they show is that the ice never got on shore in North Devon. Okay, so the ice fronts came down, they basically stopped. If you've been in Westward Ho at the time of the last ice ages, you could probably see an ice front just out there somewhere. Okay, so there's lots of ice during the ice ages, but never actually on shore. And the important thing about ice ages is this. It might look complicated again, but all we're interested in is the zigzag. When you get low sea level, this is sea level here. When you get low sea level, that means you're in an ice age. All water is locked up at the poles, sea level drops. When you get high sea levels, you're in a warm period, between glaciers, interglacial it's called. Okay, and notice we've had, this is current sea level, this is where we are now. The sea level was 120 metres lower than it was today. Okay, so massive changes at Westward Ho. In the old days, I think you could actually walk to South Wales at one point. Okay, so we're talking change. I mean, the point of all this is to say that the change is not recent. It's been going on for a long time. So we've got a drop in sea level there, and then another high sea level here. That's an interglacial. Another glacial here, another interglacial, another glacial, another interglacial. So Westward Ho has constantly been affected by a sea level change. You know, what are we talking about now with climate change? We're talking very small amounts. We're talking a metre maybe, but we've got changes here, 120 metres difference. That's a massive amount of difference. We've got changes. This one actually is about 10 metres, 8 to 10 metres above present sea level. So we've got enormous fluctuations, and we can see this at Westward Ho. Just stuff what we know and love. This is just on below Kipling Tors. We've got evidence of sea level change. That is no coming on here. Okay, 130,000 years ago, sea level was there. Okay, and Kipling Tors was a cliff. Okay, it's a sea cliff. Okay, so imagine this, the sea up here, the beach going there, and you can see the raised beach, the pebbles in the cliff there all come from that time. Right? So we know that sea level changed in Westward Ho. Right? So we're worried about a couple of metres. It's been that's 8 metres higher than current sea level. Okay, so that's a raised beach there. Following that, we had the Devensian Ice Age, and very cold, and all the cliffs above here just collapsed on top of it. Okay, so if you go down there, you'll see pebbles, and then you'll see stuff on top of the pebbles which went down on the last glaciation. Okay, so again, the point of this is that then sea level was that high, now it's dropped to this high, now it's coming up again. So you might start to wonder, Westward Ho, you're in a change. Low sea level obviously means this is the forest. That's a pretty rubbish picture. This is the sunken forest of Westward Ho. There used to be a forest on the beach at Westward Ho. So we're starting to build a picture of fairly massive change at Westward Ho. Okay, during a low sea level. Okay, so we know we have changes, massive changes in terms of sea level. We know that now that the cliffs down here are eroding, and they're being brought along by the waves in this direction, because the waves are coming this way. All the material is brought along here and ends up at Westward Ho as a spit, which is the Pebble Ridge. Okay. So this is happening all the time. There's a suggestion that there was a major landslip here in the 16th century, although the date of that is not certain. Could be the 14th century, at Bucks Mills, which put enormous amounts of stuff onto the beach. Okay, and it all moved down here. Okay, so that, the general pattern is we've got moving sediment, moving pebbles all the way through here, and cliffs are collapsing. This is the one just round the corner from Rock Nose. This was taken 5 years ago, so it shows how slow cliff collapse actually is. This is the bit that's tipping out. If you walk round past Braddock's now, there's big fences around here, and in fact this bit's still here 5 or 6 years later. The bit here's fallen off. So the cliffs are collapsing slowly but surely around us, and the emphasis is on the word slow. It's fairly slow cliff collapse. This is Bucks Mills, and this is the gore. You all know this. This is the gore, which is supposedly the remains of a landslip from the 16th century. We said 15th, 16th century. We're not sure when. All right. So a massive amount of material came down here, and this is all that's left. Because what happens when the material comes down here? It just drifts along, moves along by the waves, and has ended up on Westward Ho. And we think that this was the stimulus for the Pebble Ridge. Okay, this is what caused the Pebble Ridge to break away at Westward Ho. So it hasn't been there that long. It's a very recent phenomenon. Okay, the pebbles just move along. This is just that's about John Cornborough, so it's a bit washed out this projector, but coming around Westward Ho, you still see the line of pebbles here coming all the way around and ending up at the spit at Westward Ho. Okay, so we have cliff collapse here, moving around, deposited down there. All right, so it's just building a picture really of what's going on, and it goes on to Pebble Ridge. And so let's look at the problems we have. So the message really is, we're in an area which is has changed a lot, which is subject to lots and lots of natural processes. We have a dynamic and changing coast. Okay, this is what we have to live with, right? So overtopping. This was taken probably in the 70s or 80s by Peter Keane. Some of you might know Peter Keane. Used to live in Westward Ho. He's now retired. But this was a very, very high tide and storm coming over the Pebble Ridge. Okay. This happened in the 60s, I think. The ridge broke in the middle and it all flooded through. They just repaired it after that. They put it back through, just filled the hole in with pebbles. So we're overtopping. The Pebble Ridge is moving. All right. It's going back. This is slightly out of date. Somewhere between 1 and 2 meters per year. The whole thing is moving backwards. The pebbles from the west are less than 2,000 cubic meters. Okay, but transport rates going east are up to 5,000 cubic meters. So imagine the situation: we've got material coming along, material moving along and dropping off the edge. We've got that much joining and that much leaving. Okay, so automatically you start to think there's a problem. If we're 3,000 cubic meters lost every year. Okay, so there's not enough pebbles joining to keep the whole Pebble Ridge in one piece. So it's moving backwards and it's moving along. So it's just, it's a mobile pile of pebbles. Okay, these are some taken from Ogden's survey map, just to give you some idea of the change. That's where it was in 1809, 1832. You'll see loads of changes. The changes are many and varied. And one more. Oh no, sorry, let's go back. Okay. So what's happened is, over the last couple of hundred years, there's been lots of complicated changes here at the end. This is where the skirt is here. Pretty constant here at Appledore, as you'd expect. It's a hard rock there. Pretty constant here. Moved back a bit, but it's moved back a lot there. Okay, so it's moving back towards Westward Ho. Pretty much constant on this around this edge here as well. A little bit of movement. Just a complicated movement, but not too much. This is the major movement coming in here. Okay. This is plotted again. It's from Peter Keane's book, Westward Ho Against the Sea. These are the positions of the Pebble Ridge: 1861, 1879, 1903, 1932, 1986. It stops there. Okay. But again, the general thing is moving backwards. The U is the Union Club. which was dismantled in 1879 and rebuilt back up in Westward Ho. Okay. But definitely a movement of the ridge. A lot of this information came from old photographs, from old postcards. This is obviously in the Victorian era, and you wouldn't recognise. Well, actually, would you recognise any of Westward Ho now? I'm not really sure. That's the old Bath Hotel, I think. The one that's now the gigantic blue and white block of flats. Thank you. That'll do. Okay. Yeah. Okay. This is the Union Club here, which is where they dismantled and took back up there. These buildings are still here, as is the church at the top, and this is where the slipway is now, and some of the end of that's gone already. Okay. But a little different. But it just shows you can actually stand on the beach and say where this photograph was taken very easily, and you're way out on the beach if you try and orient yourself on the beach. This is turn of the century, Westward Ho. Obviously a very pleasant place at that point. This is the old Pebble Ridge Hotel here, which is now gone. That's the gate to Norton Burrows there. Sorry? No, they dismantled that one.
Yes, but hold by the
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like the entrance to the thing. Okay, that's okay. The important thing about this one is this is the Pebble Ridge here. Okay, this is where the slipway now is. Okay, and the amusement arcades and things there.
That's why I live there.
Okay. So this next one is 20 years different. Okay, so same slide, but there's the Pebble Ridge Hotel again. Notice how the Pebble Ridge is in that person's kitchen, basically. Okay. So, these whole historical pictures show this massive movement of this whole thing coming back into Westward Ho. So it's something we can't really, we try and stop it, but we don't. Okay. And that line there is the current line of the road through Westward Ho. And Nautilus is now sitting here, and there's all sorts of changes, obviously. But the important thing is the movement, the distance between the ridge on the previous that slide and that slide. So that's over a 20-year period. Move back. I'll just go back one. It's the distance there to there is the important distance. I've just noticed that distance on Okay, so we've got a big changes. The other thing with Westward Ho is we get differences in sand depths. You'll all have seen this if you live here. This is a very dated. I love this photograph. It's so dated. It's I guess the ice cream van and everything is just dates it. But this is just by the slipway. Lots and lots of sand. We regularly used to measure sand depths at Westward Ho, and 1.5 metres was fairly common to thickness of sand. And then you'll all be aware that this happens no sand at all. Okay, so the sand comes in and then goes out again. Okay. Again, it really what it's emphasising is just the fact that we've got change. Everything is changing. The pebbles are moving. The sand comes in and out, changes in thickness probably on a daily basis. The whole thing is a very mobile situation. Okay, this is down to clay base, the recent sediments. Okay, not hard rock. It's just recent clay. Okay. Okay, so we've got erosion at Westward Ho as well. Okay, so we've got moving pebbles, we've got overtopping. This was taken 1920, I thought it was, before the sea wall was built. Or they were just starting to build the sea wall down here. This is the road. The road still exists, obviously. This is the corner of the road. This is where the amusement arcade and Fairway Boy is down here, and the slipway is down here. Notice, as I said earlier, the Pebble Ridge in that person's kitchen. Okay. So this is the point they decided that something had to be done at Westward Ho. Okay. Nothing had been done until that point. It was all very just let everything just move. on its own devices. So this is first bit of seawall. In the was it 28? I think it was. I can't remember the exact date, but in the late 20s. The bit of seawall there. More seawall going in here. That's the foundations of the seawall going in, where the putting green and things is now. And these things here, they're called wave baffles, and I think the idea of those was to try and break the waves as they came in. Okay, so we were trying to stop the sea with some 4-foot high pieces of oak. Didn't work terribly well, and the sea just took it apart completely. Okay, you still see when a lot of the sand and pebbles have moved, you'll still see the stumps of these things are sticking out of the beach below the seawall at Westward, so watch out for those. And there's also, just on the edge of the photograph, this lump here is a breakwater. They had 4, I think it was, big chunks of concrete and stone, less than half the size of this room here, and not even as high. And again, the idea was to break the power of the waves before they hit the coast and just ripped it apart. Okay. None of these worked. Okay, this is utterly useless. This was utterly useless, and there's no trace of those left today. They decided to extend the seawall. More on the seawall in a minute. This is the seawall in the 60s. I think this was taken actually. Notice how this one and the next one are sort of a pair. That on this one here, the pebbles are way right up to the top of the seawall. Okay. What they're trying to do is trying to get around the corner to the pebble ridge. They're stopped by the sea wall. Okay, so it just shows that the pebbles do move because if you look at the next slide, there are no pebbles. This is before the rocks. Okay,
Yeah.
so it just shows, and that I think that's probably a couple of months of difference between those two slides in terms of the amount of of pebble movement. So loads of pebbles pile up against this wall. When the wave conditions are right, they go around the corner. Okay, but you'll notice this is the sea wall. Lots of problems with the sea wall. This is sprayed on concrete. You can see rusting reinforcing there. The problem with building a sea wall is that once you build a sea wall, you're building something which the sea can take apart, and the sea will take it apart continuously. Okay, when it's there. So you build a sea wall with the best of intentions, which says we're going to stop the sea, and then the sea immediately starts to take it apart, as it would, unless you keep on repairing it. So sea walls are great, but more on sea walls later. They also put in the 50s. They put some. These are groins, and the idea of those, they decided that they would stop the movement of pebbles. Try to slow down the pebbles moving in that direction towards the stern. And the reason that they knew something was happening in the 50s. They knew that this was getting weaker at this end. They knew there weren't enough pebbles joining, and so their response was to say, "Let's try and slow them down." Okay, which is a fine response. Okay. What they failed to realise was that these things are pretty useless where you've got giant pebbles. And also that the ridge count was moving backwards. So very soon, these structures were just left sitting out on the beach, totally and utterly useless. Okay, the ridge going backwards, and they also get smashed apart by the pebbles. Okay. So again, yet another glorious failure. This is a bridge that used to go across the pebble ridge. For the army used to take tanks and things over it and vehicles over it. And every year they had to dismantle it and move it a bit further back because the ridge was moving backwards. Okay, so far at Westward Ho we've tried sea walls, we've got sea walls, we've tried wave baffles, breakwaters, we've tried groins to stop the pebbles moving. Tried all sorts, all mostly useless. And some of you might remember these in the.
Yeah.
And yet another glorious failure, I suggest. These are called gabion groins. They are wire cages filled with rocks. And if you ask any primary school child what happens if you put a wire cage in the sea, they'll say, it won't last very long, it'll rust. Okay, and that's exactly what happened. Okay, so the great idea of these things, in principle, the idea was to try and stabilise the ridge, stop it moving laterally, stop it moving backwards. But I don't think I got the slide of this one. It carried on moving backwards and left these things sitting high and dry on the beach. Okay, so yet another glorious failure. Lots of money spent on it. Hasn't done anything to do anything with Pebble Ridge, apart from to leave lots of rusty metal lying around the place, which has now mostly been removed. You still see little bits of it, very, very, very occasionally. Okay, so we've got a. There it is. Okay, so this is you spend hundreds of thousands of pounds embedding these gabion groins into the Pebble Ridge. That's when the ridge was out here. All that happens is the ridge moves backwards and leaves these things lying out on the beach. Okay, so yet another failure of coastal defence. So it's not that they haven't tried to keep going at Westward Ho, to try and effectively stop the sea and stop the sea encroaching Westward Ho, but it just keeps on going. Back onto sea walls. This is the sea wall. Obviously, before they put the big rocks there. See what's happening to the base of it. The sea is ripping out pebbles, ripping out the base of it, ripping out the foundations. And if it's not repaired, what happens is it undermines it and it just falls over, which did actually happen in was it late 80s? The whole corner by the amusement park gate fell off in the 80s under big storm conditions. Okay, but so it says seawalls are great, but you've got to keep on repairing them. If you stop repairing them, you're in real trouble. Okay, because they will fall over. So an ongoing cost for seawalls. Okay. The final thing they tried was moving pebbles, and again you'll all probably be aware of this. They started moving pebbles, I think it was in the late 80s, I think it was, late 70s. They took pebbles from right at the far end by the Skern, and drove them along the beach and dumped them back at Westward Ho, 86 to 98, okay? And the idea of that was, we know the pebbles are moving this direction. We know that not enough are joining here. There's problems, there's all sorts of problems going on in terms of things joining. So the simplest solution would be to take pebbles from the far end, bring them back by truck, and dump them at the near end, the Westward Ho end, and then the sea all just sorts it out again, and everything's lovely. Okay. The only problem was doing this. They created weak points at the far end, and had to reinforce those. Because they were taking too much out, and the ridge continued to move backwards and everything like that. You'll see on this one here, they also had to put in front of the seawall. They put lots of boulders, it's called riprap, to try and break the force of the waves and try and prevent the seawall being undermined. Okay, so in terms of Westward Ho, we have a massive history of change, of natural change, sea level change, due to ice ages. We've got lots of change, lots of attempts at preventing the sea breaking into Westward Ho, and now, of course, we do this. Okay, so you all know and love these buildings here. This is particularly my favourite. So you have to start asking yourself the question. Okay, what are we doing? Okay, we know that whether you like the buildings or not is irrelevant, but we know that Westward Ho has got problems with sea defences. It always has had lots of problems with sea defences. Okay, are we sensible in building anything this close to the sea? Particularly this one here, but this one as well. Okay, just a question. In logical terms, why do we do it? Because what we're doing is opening ourselves up to many years of defence, of coastal defence. Okay, you can't get away from the fact that it will require protecting. Okay, this is the one. What's this one called? I lose track. Nassau Core. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, this is one that's being constructed, and what they've done in front of it, there's a massive seawall in front of it. There's a wave return wall just above the top here. The idea of that is so that any waves hitting it will go back. And they put loads and loads of rock armour or riprap in front of the building as well. Okay.
It's not big enough and it's already moved.
If you go down there now, I've done lots of measurements with students. We've found bits of this stuff, maybe 200 metres down the beach. Okay. Yeah. So it moves. You have to ask the question: did anybody do their calculations properly? I think the answer is probably not. But obviously, would you buy a house here? Well, you might think twice about it, because we know already that this is moving. Okay, very, 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 very clearly, and we have data to suggest that. Okay, so we're adding to our problems in Westward Ho in terms of building by the sea. Okay, so we have a big problem.
But surely that's not our problem, it's the problem of the owners of the building.
We'll come on to that in a minute. That's okay, it's not my problem, yeah. So you probably think it's your problem either, okay. Okay, long-term things, okay. We know, this is about big waves, we know that statistically, and that could mean anything, it doesn't mean it's going to happen, there is a high probability that we're going to get more intense storms due to warming of the planet. If you believe, I mean, it doesn't matter whether you believe that we're causing it or it's a natural progression, a natural warming is happening. I think almost certainly the only debate is about how fast it's happening and whether we're causing it. But this is only going to get worse. So statistically, we're going to get bigger waves hitting Westward Ho. So there's going to be more storms every 30 years. It's fairly meaningless, but we will be hit by big waves, which will mean that there will be a lot of overtopping of the ridge and problems in Westward Ho. If sea level's rising, and I think all the evidence points to the fact that sea level is rising. By 2250, it's not going to happen tomorrow, but in a couple of hundred years, this is what Westward Ho will look like. Just from a model here. Okay, so Westward is basically where do we know and love? Okay, that's if you live on a hill, you're fine, but sorry. Yeah. It's a couple of hundred years, but okay. So interestingly. This is just a model here, and these are the high bits. These are just the high dunes and things on the burrows. Okay, but obviously a 1 metre rise could cause problems. Okay, 2 metre rise would cause even more problems. Okay, 2 metre rise with a spring tide, you would get the whole lot would just disappear basically. Okay, so we've got problems. I haven't said anything about the Westward Ho's major tourist attraction, the rubbish dump. Yeah, okay. So down at the end of Northern Boroughs, we have lots and lots of domestic and probably non-domestic rubbish, but nobody really knows what's in there. Right on the end of a spit. We know the spit is mobile. We know the pebbles are moving, we know it's moving backwards, we know that sea level's rising, we know that it's in great danger, okay? So that's just another concept. As well as the town of Westward Ho, the village of Westward Ho, and the property, we also have to consider other effects of coastal defence in this area here. And I'm fairly convinced over the last 50 years, most of the coastal defence has been aimed at looking after a rubbish dump, okay, and making sure the rubbish dump didn't wash away, okay. That's obviously one of their prime concerns. And interestingly, this is Devon County Council's response to a plan, which I'll come on to in a minute, the shoreline management plan. They said it's not possible to say today whether it will be feasible from technical or regulatory standpoints to hold the line, in other words, defend the former landfill site. So even Devon County Council are looking at this, this is 4 or 5 years ago now, are saying, actually, we're talking about an almost impossible situation. We've got a rubbish dump there which is we're not sure we can ever say we can defend it from a technical or a planning point of view. Okay, so we've got a problem. We have this major problem at Westward Ho. So not just the village, but the rubbish dump as well. What are we going to do about the rubbish dump? Okay, so what's going on? In the old days, we used to think, and I used to teach this 20 years ago, that the problem in Westward Ho and the problem with the Pebble Ridge was principally caused by the slipway and the sea wall. It stuck out into the bay. All the pebbles were coming around from Bucks Mills all the way around the coast around there. They were getting jammed up behind that, and therefore the ridge was being starved. Effectively, you put a barrier to the longshore drift, the movement of pebbles, and therefore the ridge went down, and then you had to fiddle around moving pebbles and whatever with the ridge. Okay, this was the old. This was the story, and that's what everybody used to think in the old days. What we now think about the Pebble Ridge. First of all, pebbles come from a landslide that happened several hundred years ago. All those pebbles, the majority of those pebbles, are from an old landslide, a massive landslide. This is crucial. The supply has dried up. In other words, it's all gone. And the cliffs are not falling down fast enough to the west to produce enough material to support this thing out here. Okay? So it's it. It's the end of its life. It's finished. Okay? We know that they're temporary structures anyway. Alright? While all this is happening, we've developed Westward Ho into a superb tourist resort today. And we also know, we think we know, that the ridge is just changing its orientation to face the waves. I'll just go a slide to show that what that means, okay? This is what we think is happening. Okay? It's pretty much constant at this end here over time, and what's happening is trying to do that. Because the waves are coming in from the west and southwest, or west, let's say westerly, they're coming in a straight line. Okay? What this coastal, what it's trying to do is trying to line up. It's trying to go straight. It's trying to fit the waves coming in. This is what all coastal things do. They try to.
Where was Sandymere on there?
Sandymere's back here. The white blob there.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So it's pivoting. The idea is, it's sort of doing that, and it's coming in at the end there. This is what we think is happening. So, here's obviously this has got fairly severe implications for Westward Ho if this is happening. This all comes from a guy called John Pethick, who did a report in 2007. He's one of the world's foremost experts on estuaries and spits. And he was shipped in to do a report because everyone was a bit confused, and these are the conclusions that he came to, that actually this is, we were wrong all the time. Okay. So what he said, it's an ephemeral and peripheral landform. Okay, that's fairly big words for meaning something that is temporary and it's not really that important. It's probably quite important if you look here, but in geographical terms, it's just a temporary feature which came from a landslip. Material came along, material stops, this goes away. Okay. So in the natural process, the ridge will gradually erode away. So we're talking about something at the end of its life. Okay. So this is keep this in your head that we're talking about something at the end of its life. So if we decide to manage, okay, if we decide to do something about it, his recommendations were, if you want to try and play King Canute, only said, based at Sandymere here, we should pile things in front of the ridge, okay, to just to strengthen it there. And we all know, we all walk around the edge here, and there's big holes appearing in the ridge there, and the sand dunes are being eroded very rapidly. But basically, he's saying you've got to reinforce that bit there because there aren't enough pebbles. So reinforce that, okay, and then here, instead of putting pebbles on the front of the ridge, pile them up behind. Okay? So, I mean, it sounds counterintuitive, but get your lorries of pebbles, wherever you're going to get them from, whatever you're going to do, dump them on the, probably on the go-kart track if you could start, okay? Or on those new bungalows that are sitting down there. Anybody live in those new bungalows? Yes, okay. That sort of place. Okay. The point of that is, it would basically help, because the ridge is trying to do this, and effectively you say, okay, we'll let it do that, but we'll help it on its way a bit, and some of those pebbles are going to move down there, but we will, you know, we'll try and establish a line down here which is our line of defence, if you like, is where the ridge is going to go back to. Okay, so let it pivot like that, help it along the way here, put some pebbles there to protect that, and his thinking is that the rubbish dump is actually pretty safe if you do this. If you believe his model, and it's only a model, okay, he may be wrong, but he thinks he's right, it will just pivot around like that, okay, and all the rubbish down there will be safe. Until, of course, we think about sea level rising, because that won't stop the sea level rising. Where's that going to come in? It's going to come in around the back, okay, and over the top and everywhere else. So, although you're protecting it's safe from direct wave action, it's not safe from sea level rise. Okay, so this is the current thinking in terms of what's happening at Westward Ho, and it's got pretty severe implications for some of the things here. So if you look just back, where the ground starts to rise, you're fine. But so obviously it's got implications for Westward Ho. We've tried over the years to try and stop the sea. Have we succeeded? No. Can we possibly succeed in stopping the sea? No. We can try. We can try to our heart's content. Okay. And we might think we've done it, but I'm pretty much convinced we haven't. So the question is, how can these challenges be met? In other words, what can we do, and what would you do? Let's imagine you guys are in charge. You're the guys in charge of Torrington District Council, coastal defence. It's your responsibility. Or Devon County Council. Let's take it a level higher. Devon County Council, or even national government. You've got a problem on your hands. You've got people in Westward Ho who want to save the golf course, who think the golf course is the most important thing in the world, and we all know who they are. Okay, so anybody got on me offending any golfers here? But okay, some people think the golf club, it should be saved at all costs. Okay, some people obviously living in Westward Ho with their houses in danger, terribly costly. Westbourne Terrace, Eastbourne Terrace, problematical. This will be in maybe 100 years' time. This will be beautiful seafront property, okay, worth a fortune.
It'll be flats though.
Oh yeah, but you'll have sold it by then. You won't care.
When was the lease in 2015?
Extend the lease a bit longer. So effectively, we have got some areas in Westward Ho which are in serious trouble. Okay, so there's a golf course, there's the amenity value, there's the tourist value. Okay, what's going to happen with the tourists? Okay, and the question is, what would you do? You've got some options. I'll just run through the options, and then okay. You can try what's called soft engineering. Okay, in other words, that'd be shift pebbles around. Don't build anything hard. Don't build any sea walls, but do everything. Try and work with the processes. In other words, go with the idea of dumping pebbles behind the ridge and dumping pebbles in the middle of the ridge on the front face. Let it move. Yeah, accept it, but do a little bit of help on its way. Don't try and interfere too much. You could say I'm a hard engineering person, and what I want to do is build sea walls. You could technically build a sea wall around the whole of Westward Ho. No problem at all. It would cost you loads of money. You could build one on the front of the ridge, you could build one behind the ridge, you could do what you like. Okay? It would cost you zillions of pounds. I wouldn't even like to think about what it would cost you. But it would work to a certain extent. Your maintenance costs would be incredibly high. They always are with hard engineering. So, soft engineering we've got, but hard engineering is an option. We could say, okay, manage retreat, that's a nice term for running away. We'll say, we'll accept that the sea is going to come in, and what we'll do, we'll let it. don't care. Okay, we'll accept that the Pebble Ridge is this ephemeral feature, it's finished, there's not enough material joining, we'll therefore pay people to move house. We'll physically pick their houses up if necessary, we'll move them to anywhere in the world, because it's cheaper to do that than build a seawall. Okay? If they want to go and live in the Seychelles, fantastic, we'll pay for them, because it's still cheaper. Right? So, you accept that you lose land and you move it, you move things and you accept the costs associated with it. Okay? Who brings back, who pays for that? Well, whatever is cheaper than a seawall. Or you do nothing at all and just let nature take its course, don't compensate anybody, don't let people look after their own things, let them, the insurance companies deal with it, let the national government deal with it, the aftermath of whatever. Okay. So we've got some choices in Westward Ho. Okay. All those choices that come back into there. Okay. Now, this is what the latest shoreline management plan says. This is what they're basically saying there's loads of risks. Okay, this is Westward Ho, the Westward Ho area. Many flood and coastal erosion risk management issues to be addressed in the immediate term, not least. Okay, not least. Sustainable defence position in Westward Ho. So this is an official document. This has been adopted by the County Council. This is what the County Council they're saying. Oh dear, we've got some problems. Okay. So they know they've got to do something, and they're talking about managed realignment. They're talking about pebble movement, basically, and they're worried about the landfill site. So interestingly, they're talking about defences to protect features such as the landfill site. So they're still concerned with trying to protect a rubbish dump, okay, which is quite entertaining in my view. Spend money trying to protect a rubbish dump. Okay, so they've got a study now to develop this strategy, and that reports in 2014, and they will be looking for. They're doing some public consultations to try and get. It suggests they're trying to persuade people or trying to inform people of what's going on so they can go along with whatever they want to do. Okay, so they're in the process now of, they know there's a problem at Westward Ho, they know that it's the ridge is a problem, they know flooding is a problem, and they're thinking about what to do, and the study will report in 2014. Okay, so we're moving towards. Okay, and that's, I'm just going to go back to that previous slide. Okay. So we've got I'm going to stop rabbiting along. I've had a really bad cold for the last few days, and I'm losing my voice you can probably tell I'm losing my voice rather rapidly. So the question now to you guys is, if you were in charge, what would you do in Westward Ho? Okay. Would you walk away running away screaming? Would you sell your house before anybody else realises? Or would you say, actually, we have some choices? We can contribute. And I think we can all. I think we can actually all contribute to the debate, because you all know the press is full of stories particularly about the golf club being, desperate to be saved, and saying that certain local councillors suggesting that it's the most important thing. Okay? So they've got they're coming from one point of view. People who live here come from another point of view. So would anybody like to offer any opinions on Westward Ho? Yeah.
Well, if we raise all of us materials in the rubbish tip rather than for the save it, we could have roughly 100 material like gold in that, that isn't worth recycling these days. In years ago, we just chucked away the dump.
So your suggestion would be to remove one of the problems, move the rubbish dump.
Yeah, because all the plastics can never be recycled into biodiesel, could it?
Yeah.
These are plastic now, and there's all the gold and all that, and lead and all those, what else, televisions and stuff that's in there, and all the metals. So
all the bombs and unexploded munitions, they say. Yeah, no.
In 2 years' time, we can't buy sea anyway, so unless we put the coast of the fences on your front door,
Yeah, so you're absolutely right, because the end
I'm in
result,
Torrington, so don't bother me. You know. I just want to find it up halfway up.
you've got a lovely landfill site, we can take it all to a deep moor, yeah. Oh, the deep moor's nearly full, isn't it? So,
Yeah,
so I
but
think
they should have harvested the landfills. Now you shouldn't get all the gold in there. There's other ones that
They-
buried in the gold.
I think you're right.
Recyclable.
I think you're right in that you should say, okay, if you move the dump, then you've got rid of a problem. Because if you don't move it, you're going to have to build a concrete wall all the way around it. And inevitably, what you're going to end up with then is a rubbish dump surrounded by a block of concrete.
An island.
Sorry?
A concrete island.
An island, and inevitably you have a concrete island, and that's just stupid. That may be what happens, I don't know. But if you moved it, you've got a problem of all the toxic things they think are in there. Nobody really knows what's in there. It's never logged. Where would you put the stuff you can't recycle? Okay, but it's still, I think it's still a very feasible thing to do, because it's going to cost a fortune, but will it cost any more than building a seawall? I don't know. I mean, great idea. Yeah, move the dump, and then what was you the far end? Let it go.
How many years did it take to film that? When did it actually?
It opened between the wars, I think it was, and so there's only probably 50 years of rubbish in there, but 50 years of household rubbish from the whole of Torridge, plus all the hospital waste, plus the this, plus the that, plus all the post-war waste, everything. So I don't know. I mean, you hear. I've not seen the report. I've only seen the report where they did some test cores of see what was in there. There has been a report and some test drilling to find out what was in there, but I've not seen the result. It's not going to be particularly pleasant, but.
In Sandymuir, you used to be able to walk around the beach to the end. Well, the stones are right up now. You can't actually walk on any sand there at all. And it's awful, and you can see everything coming out of the burrows. Yeah. It's just dreadful. Yeah,
so it's all moving, so it's happening. So basically what it's saying is things are happening now. It's actually, the model I've been saying is that it's going to be pretty stable right in there. There will be movement at the top
all
end.
the sand dunes are all just disappearing.
Just disappearing, but okay, so when was the last time they did anything to the Pebble Ridge? The last time they put pebbles on it, I can't remember for the last 4 or 5 years, they've done nothing, okay? So it's basically been ignored for the last 4 or 5 years because they've got no money to do it, right? So the changes are happening already, which means that we can talk about this whenever. We've got to do something sooner rather than later, is what you're suggesting.
Yeah, well, I just don't know what to do.
No.
It's just coming in that the pebbles are just washing it all away.
So what John Pethick said, put some more pebbles there. Reinforce that with pebbles or something.
Well, the whole ridge is moving gradually.
Yeah.
Nearer and nearer.
Or do we take them from this end at Westward Home and put them up there to strengthen it, and that would help it going back at this end here. You know,
the council are going to build a car park just there, though.
Of course
that's good thing.
Of course they are, yeah. Okay, so whatever we do, there's always going to be some interest of something. A big car park back there, okay. Before long, there'll be another building back there. You can almost guarantee the go-kart track will apply for planning permission to build a block of flats. Well, wouldn't you? Yeah, I mean, so we've got this really, really big problem, and I myself, I really don't know what the answer is, except that I don't like hard engineering. I think once you start building sea walls, you're in deep, deep trouble. The end result of that policy would be to encase the whole of Britain in a sea wall. Okay, and should they spend? Is Westward Home more important than London, Liverpool, Hull? Yeah. Of course it is, yeah. That was a rhetorical question. The government might have a slightly different viewpoint and suggest actually, if we're going to spend some money on sea walls, you guys hicks in the countryside, you can move, pick up get on a bike and go back a bit further, okay? But this costs a lot of money. This costs less. And he's working with the processes. This is the Pethick model. Let it move, okay?
But you can adjust that, can't you?
Yes, and you can adjust it.
Yeah, the other one you can't.
You can't. Once you've built this, you can't do anything apart from knock it down and start again, okay? Do we accept that we have to retreat?
How did they finance moving the Union Club? I mean, was that done?
This is in Victorian times. In Victorian times, I don't know why they would have done it.
Because they've moved houses before on big properties. I just wonder if that's something they could consider doing.
Yeah. It'd be cheap to knock them down and start again. to be perfectly frank. But yeah, they could do it. It's possible to do it, certainly. Yeah. But the big question is: do we accept that we have to say, okay, we can't stop the sea? Yeah. You can't. No. Yeah. I mean, so at some point, where something's going to have to happen in Westward Ho, where people say, okay, we're going to have to give up on this. Okay. At what point? I don't know.
The money goes a lot further if you do a managed retreat compared to hard engineering.
Yes.
Like for $1 million, you can move like a good handful of families.
Anywhere in the world.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Whereas $1 million probably won't do much on a sea defence, will it?
A couple of metres,
Yeah.
And just making a place worse. If you do something there, you're going to make it worse
somewhere else. Good point. Yeah, you're going to make it worse.
Collapses into the sea.
Well, how's that collapse?
That would provide a bit of rubble to recharge the bridge for a year or two and give you a year or two's thinking time.
I did have a suggestion from some students once that they should hire the RAF to carpet bomb the cliffs at Abbotsham and Cornborough and Bucks Mills and all the way along there, and basically put a massive amount of sediment into the beach, recreating the 16th century Bucks Mills landslide. I thought, well, fantastic. They might complain a bit around there, but
There's not many of them.
There's not many of them. Just a few sheep. But the only problem is the rate the pebble's moving, and there have been some recent work on pebble movement, some fairly high level stuff on how the pebbles are moving, and they do move quite long distances, even in a single tide. It would probably take them 50 years to get round here, or maybe 100 years to get round here. And so, it's possibly a bit late, okay. But it's still, to me, it's fairly facile to say you're going to blow the cliffs up. But well, why not?
At what point though is it a natural phenomenon that everybody's drawn here for, or just a sea defence in people's houses? What do we want out of this? Yes. Are we just trying to save people, or do we love it because it is natural?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Do we interfere? Or do we not interfere? And once you start interfering with natural systems, you're basically stuffed. Whatever you do, you interfere with the system, you've got to keep going, okay?
Well, what moved it? If you say you put city wall around here, that energy has got to go somewhere.
Absolutely.
Forest or torrent?
Yeah, forget those people in Barnstable, they're not involved in it.
Instead will be flooded.
Instead will be flooded, yeah, okay, yeah, not a problem at all.
Would that take the whole full point off then?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
When they stopped,
moving from somewhere else, isn't it?
Yeah, you moved from somewhere else, yeah, sorry.
when they stopped dredging at Cove Point, the sand level at Instow, I have been told, rose very considerably. That at one time the wall was 15 feet high, and now even I can jump off the wall onto the sand. And the other thing is that the Tor has silted up. I don't know how many years it is since ships could go up to Barnstable.
Yeah.
And latterly they went up to Roll Quay, but that's silted up. The Torridge is silted up.
Yeah.
So how long would it take to create more sand there, or more sand to come in there, which would be protection from that side?
I think again you're messing with natural system. The Torridge is filling up and the Tor's filling. We know they're filling up because what's happening is they were very deep channels cut. I think during the last ice age or by the mountain water, so some really deep channels, and it's a natural process now.
Yeah.
They're backfilling, or it's natural. I don't think we can stop that.
No, I didn't want to stop it. I just thought if it
take some of
happened, you would then have land there, and you could move people over there.
Yeah, you could. But the other interesting thing about the estuary of Instow Beach, we think we now know what's happening to the sand. We didn't used to know. The sand is coming in on the Thornton Sand End, going over to Instow, coming back around to the Skern, and going round and round in a circle. And if we interfere with that, we then have a problem because we're disturbing the natural cycle.
Yeah.
And several years ago, I remember them on Instow Beach moving all the sand because there's too much sand in Instow Beach, and they effectively took it out of the system to the bay just up the Tor, and basically stopped that process happening. Rather pointlessly in my view, but that's what they did. I don't think we knew what was happening then. I think we now know it's spinning around in circles. Okay, so yet another problem. Yeah.
What's the likelihood of the authorities, whoever they may be, making a decision on the 14th? Because
I think absolutely none whatsoever.
Because you said they had this thing on 2010. Yeah. When the rubbish dump started to expose itself, it took them a fortnight to have a meeting to decide what they were going to do. So I suppose they all drive around with no spare wheels either, thinking if we get a puncture we'll make a decision then.
The shoreline management plans have been going for many, many years. The first one, I think, early 2000s, and then there was one for 2007, 2009, and they keep putting it off. They accept there's a problem all the time. Yes, there's a problem, and we better do something about it.
But it's not mine.
But who's going to pay? Okay, we're now in we're now in a situation where there's very little public money. Funds are being cut all the time. So who would pay for any of this work at Westward Ho?
You could get money if you even had an idea of what you're going to do. You could get backing if it's a good enough idea, but it's probably more like, I mean, I know money's a problem, but if none of them can make a decision on what they're going to do anyway, then they're stuck at the start, aren't they?
Yeah, too busy counting their pensions.
Well, I don't know. I mean,
it's very cynical of you.
As you said, they've tried plenty of things before. They've got evidence as to what will happen. So unless they've got an expert that's even better than them at it, then what hope have they got for deciding better than us?
Personally, I think the best hope we've got is to do a combination of soft engineering and managed retreat, and follow the recommendations in the Pethick report, suggesting that it will realign itself, accept that, move a few houses, move a few people, put some pebbles here and there, and see what happens.
Yeah.
But do something.
But you can't sit and do nothing.
No, don't. This is not possible anymore. I would be interested to know. I mean, occasionally I talk to councillors about this, but they don't know very much either. They're relying on the experts and the shoreline management plans, and as they should. I'm not criticising them for that. But something. So the final question is, how long have we got? Do you think?
Maximum 5 years.
I don't know. Probably 20 years, 20, 30, 40 years. I don't know. I reckon if you came back here in 40 or 50 years, you'd see some major changes. In the short term, okay, we've got a problem with the rubbish dump. What's the worst can happen with the rubbish dump now? We'll just have 50 years of rubbish spread around Bideford Bay. Okay? Will we pick it up? Then somebody go and pick it up. I think this is what your point is. You wait until something happens and then you deal with it. And that to me is probably what's going to happen. But we could deal with it.
Which will cost twice as much.
Which will probably cost twice as much. But
why did anybody ever think to put a rubbish dump there?
Because it was a long way from anywhere. And that was before they knew anything about coastal process. I mean, you've got to remember in the 30s and 40s I suppose would be, and late 30s, we knew very little about how coasts operated.
But then surely there were people around, 70, 80-year-olds, who'd seen it change.
Yeah, but, just old people, I don't know, yeah, it's a good point. Why?
The rubbish didn't actually start on the road, did it? It started
on
around, if you like.
Yeah, Appledore Bridge. The
gradually rolled it on the road, yeah.
They built the way they built the rubbish dump was to drive trucks up to through Appledore Gate, under the bridge there, dump it, make a causeway, and then build the causeway all the way along, and then finally get to the salt marsh at the end, where it tips in there. So that whole road down to the far end is built on rubbish, which is why it goes like that, because every so often the rubbish collapses, and then all they do is just tarmac it straight again. Okay. So already by building that, we've interfered with the natural flow of water behind the Pebble Ridge. Okay. In theory, that should be flooding all the time. There should be mud in there. There should be levels rising. It should be its own sea defence almost. But yeah, we've been messing with this area for forever.
Another thing, you say we're losing 3,000 cubic metres annually?
Oh, thereabouts.
Well, where's all that ending up then?
It just drops off the edge into deep water and goes into Bideford Bay.
Does it?
Yeah.
When all the sand went off the beach, it was 1988, I think. What caused it to go, and what brought it back again?
The magic of natural processes. Okay, waves have got two components. When a wave's coming forward, it's called a swash, and when it's going back, it's called a backwash. Okay, so if the swash is more powerful than the backwash, material moves up the beach. Okay, if the backwash is more powerful than the swash, material moves down the beach, and it's happening on a daily basis. You don't see it. Real storm conditions, they're called disruptive waves. The backwash is always more powerful than the swash going forward, and that just takes material out, and it just sits it offshore. Doesn't go anywhere, it just sits out there. When the reverse happens, it just pushes it back up again. So this is happening, we don't see it, but it's happening every single tidal cycle. So it just happens we had a long period of storms, just pulled it all back. Just stored it out there and brought it all back in again. The beach is just a storage area, no more. The Pebble Ridge is just a storage area. So, you know, that's why, yeah. So it's just natural, it's just entirely natural. Yeah. Okay, exactly, fantastic, yeah. Okay, my only sort of final point would be that, you know, obviously everybody in this area is going to be involved at some stage in the next few years in this consultation of what's going on the beach here. But just remember the process. You know, we're dealing with natural processes here. We're dealing with a natural pebble ridge, natural erosion, natural deposition, and I think. Always bear in mind the ridge is at the end of its life. It's basically finished as a feature in geomorphological terms. You know, geologists talk in thousands of years or millions of years, but it's not going to come back. Okay, ever. It's finished. So we have to deal with that with that point of view. We have to deal with the ridge being something which is over basically. So. That's the joyful note on which I'd like to finish. So any more questions? I'll stick around, but yeah. So I'm not an expert.
How would the Dutch deal with this? Because we constantly talk about retreat, but they're still going the other way, reclaiming land from the sea.
They build. How do the Dutch cope? They build big walls.
Yeah, I overheard a conversation the other day, two chaps who served the Lancasters in war.
Yeah.
And they were talking about a Lancaster that had just been found on an area that was previously under the sea. The Dutch had pushed the sea back and reclaimed the land.
It's possible.
Give Westward Ho to the Dutch. That's sorted out.
It's entirely possible to do. It is. Don't get me wrong. This solution is entirely and utterly possible, as the Dutch have shown. You can protect a whole country. All you do is build higher.
If they took the attitude that some of our people take, you know, they'd be underwater now.
The Dutch coastline is a bit shorter than ours, though. We've got a lot less to deal with. But yeah, it's possible. It's who pays for it. Print some more money. You know, why not?
Stop invading other countries.
We could get very political, don't we? Yeah. No trident. Yeah. Scrap trident. Yeah.
No impact.
Use trident to blow. To blow up the cliffs at
the submarines as breakwaters.
Absolutely, yeah. You see, they should ask us to be radical, yeah. Yes. So it is complicated, and I don't think it's an easy solution, but it is a very, very, very complex
we could try to move Lundy further in.
You could move Lundy further in, offshore, join up, it'd be fine, yeah.
We'll go there.
About the array, when they start building the array, because that's coming to Amersham, isn't it? So they could build a few cliffs.
They could, yeah, they could, yeah.
They probably will. They probably will.
No, they're going to drill under the beach, yeah. So the drilling went past my house as well, so that's not the end of that. But yeah, so yeah, there's changes happening all the time. And I think we have to work out how we cope with change and say, I'm not sure what I would do, apart from move people and say to people, you know, you live by the sea. Where would you like to go and live? Where would you like to go and live in? Anywhere you like in the world. This is the sea outside your front door.
Yes.
Yeah. Where would you like to go and live?
Right up to the gate.
Right up to the gate. Okay, so the problem is real, isn't it?
Yeah.
The problem is actually a real problem now. It's a real problem you're facing.
Well, that's because I think they've had the ridge, definitely had the ridge lately, and it hasn't come over like that since for about 10, 15 years actually.
Well, the ridge is far healthier this end than it's ever been.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. We're just missing bits in the middle.
Yeah, I can remember, 50, 60 years ago, the ridge was nothing to walk over.
Yeah.
You know, you can walk over it now, it's
no, it's actually fine. It is fine.
Yeah, you could drive the fleet of lorries on the top.
Yeah.
But haven't we always got the problem that we're not even standing on rock now? You know, this is very early.
Recent sediment, mud. Yeah.
So what are we defending? We're defending a sponge.
Yeah.
Going back to the councils then, I'm sure this week in the local paper there was a report about the erosion of the boroughs in the Gazette. And it said the council are going to start monitoring the erosion.
They're going to start monitoring, you know, it's perfect. Go back to you, it's a perfect solution. You don't do anything, you monitor.
Yes,
Yeah?
And right,
So maybe pile all the council, any council.
And a public public consultation.
Yeah.
Then monitor again, and another public consultation.
Yeah. So we have our answer.
Massive nature reserve would be good though.
Just let it flood.
Yeah, the whole place. I mean, it'd be spot on for something around here, wouldn't it? I mean, you might have to move everybody to Northern, but then. But that's only tens, maybe hundreds of people. It's not massive flood in Stowe and everywhere else.
No. No, you're right. Yeah. Sorry, one more.
Well, no, I was going to say we went to Riversford House to look at the plan that's come out now, and I said, what about Westward Ho? And the man said, we're bringing out a special plan for Westward Ho, and it should be within the next 6 months. And I made some comment, and he said, well, we think that's being really fast. So in 6 months' time, you all need to go to Riversford House and make rude remarks and comments.
But they're in the same position as we are. What would we do?
They're right on the edge.
Yeah, and what would we do though? They've got to make some decisions which are sustainable, with no money.
Yeah.
So I honestly don't know what the answer is, apart from I don't know, cry maybe.
There's much nicer places to live, though.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
You've been talking about the ridge
Yeah.
quite a lot. Is there any problems from the end of the existing seawall, say up to the PA?
No, I don't think so. I mean, there is a bit of erosion there, but I think the current report says that because that's facing northeast, it doesn't get the full whack of the waves. Okay, you do get some erosion there, and you see if you go past the house that's falling into the sea, below there you'll see the seawall which is being eroded away, and all sorts of stuff is happening. But it's not. Bits will fall off the cliff all the time, but it's not facing the waves into the full force of the wave. So yes, there will be erosion, but not to the same extent as on the westerly facing sides. So I think pretty safe. You're pretty safe down there, I think, and you're much higher as well.
Now Sal's going to go, isn't it? Because they have to keep the pumps going all the time.
Yes.
To keep the car park.
Because they built right out onto the beach basically. So that was probably a mistake in building. We say, who should we pay for that?
No, the developers or who owns the freehold.
But haven't developers always undervalued the sea or had the power of the sea?
Probably,
When
yes.
you think they came trying to build a pier in Westward Ho.
Oh yes.
Anyone who's been here and seen the power of the sea in the winter.
And how many times have they tried?
With any sense.
They tried. Is it 3 or 4 times, wasn't it? They built the pier.
I mean, a wooden pier. It's ridiculous.
I think the answer is that we think, as human beings, we think we can always win against the elements, and that we're in control. And actually, we're pathetically small, powerless, insignificant. Yes. Anything else we can say about ourselves? But we are effectively against the power of the sea. You can't stop the sea.
The sea's the most powerful thing on earth.
Yeah, you can't stop it. Whatever we think we can do. We can fiddle. We can fiddle at the edges. We can do all this sort of stuff. But in the end, the whole problem comes to me. If we weren't so stupid as to live by the sea and build our houses by the sea, there'd be no problem.
But you see, if we live back there, we'd be by the sea eventually anyway.
Yeah, you would. Yes, you would. Sorry. We build out into rivers. Hence the Lynmouth flood, all the disaster there. People building out into the rivers. We build out onto the beaches, the seas. We build in low-lying flooding areas. If we didn't do that, there would be no problem. But because there's too many of us. There's another political thing. Population is the biggest problem on Earth at the moment. There's too many of us. We build
space in the UK though. You look on a map; it's all green. It might be divvied up into fields, but there's plenty of space to live that isn't by water.
Oh yeah, no, there is. Yeah. But people like to live by water. So if we weren't so stupid as to live by water and build our houses by water, we'd be entirely enough safe, and none of this would matter at all.
This guy Kingsley's got a lot to answer.
He has to do. Okay, we can't it a day now. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.